got staff on that side that's taking our notes and our ideas and our sketches and drawings, and now it's going to get tested and built and sampled. And then I wake up tomorrow morning, there's a whole list of answers and next steps waiting for us to go look at.
That's like the KPMG. That's what they do. I have friends in the Big Four, and they're like, yeah, at night I pass it off to, India or someone. They handle all the algorithms, and they bring me back some clean sheets. It sounds like you're working around the clock, and it's yielded a sturdy product. One question I will ask you: what's the Doja scene like in China? Is it just totally frowned upon, or is it like don't fuck with it? Like when you go to certain countries, I've been told don't even bother bringing my pen, because if they catch you, your life will be miserable. Is that the China vibe as well?
It's changing. I mean, it used to be, I think, much more. No one knew what it was. We used to brag that we could smoke a joint in front of the police station, and they wouldn't know the smell. So we'd go out, clubbing at the nights and light a J and not too worried, because no one knew what the smell was. Now there's enough travel in the world and people been around that you kind of think twice about lighting up a joint in China. It's very illegal. You're definitely going to go to jail. That probably makes it more fun. I think when things are illegal, the fun factor definitely is, doubled just for being illegal. But then, even a couple of years ago, pens started coming out where now you can put this little pencil-sized thing in your backpack that looks like an e-cig with oil. It was really convenient, and I think there were a couple of years where that was that was the go-to, and then China started catching on. Like, wait, we're building all these little pens that gets filled with marijuana, and the foreigners bring them all back into China and smoke them on the airplanes, and that got stomped on pretty quick. Now, today, you can buy herb in China.
Really?
Yeah, you'd have to, live there a while and know people. It's not easy. It's there, and it's good like BC bud. There's quality. Getting quality bud in China took 30 years of asking. It's not an easy find. But nowadays, no one messes with it. It's too dangerous. In China, nobody wants to go to jail and lose their careers for this stuff. So I think everyone's kind of tightened their practices up and run things more by the book. Look, I'm a professional risk taker. I love doing that stuff. But even now, I'm getting too old to want to, get into big trouble now.
Hell no. And I think everybody kind of always, and I don't have any frame of reference to Eastern Asia. I've done the Europe thing, and you can party there very, very casually. I don't think there was any rules, including in my hotel room. They were like, as long as you're not loud. But everyone remembers that story of the American boy that was like fucking around and like vandalizing cars, and like it was, I can't remember if it was Thailand or where it may have been.
Singapore.
But, it's like, don't go over there. They'll cane you just for fucking like skateboarding by a car and like keying it. Like, don't do it.
His ass whipped. Yeah. Scars on that one.
Exactly. So I wasn't sure if it was kind of because China's fucking huge. So I wasn't sure if they have like just groves of it, like, some countries have poppy and things of that nature, or if it was, taboo in every regard.
The wild hemp that grows in China is a very low THC. There's a city called Dali where sort of all the backpackers and the hippies go to hang out, because there's just weed that grows out in the fields out there. It's free, but it's probably 2 or 3%, maybe 4%. You got to kind of smoke all day long to keep the high going. But
where'd you call home in China?
What's that?
Where was your home in China?
I was based out of Shanghai, kind of a big city with a lot going on. But, building all the Bungee towers, I was in every province of every city. I saw more of that country than most Chinese people will ever see in a lifetime.
No,
very fascinating.
I can believe that. I mean, that country is large enough to where you could travel your whole life over there and probably not even clip all of it,
Yeah. Here's a funny point. Every Chinese meal I go to, everyone who's ever done business in Asia, they know that you go out at nighttime, you have a big dinner party, you get really drunk, eat lots of good food, go puke and come back and drink some more. For whatever reason, China's so big and there's so much to learn that even the Chinese people at dinner time, every night, all they talk about is, what's the food in your hometown? What's the booze in your hometown? How drunk did you get at, your hometown parties? And the Chinese learn, if you're from Beijing, you're from Shanghai, you're from Kunming, well, here's how they drink and party there. This is what we eat over here. This is how we throw it down over there. And they just go around at business meetings kind of learning how the people up north or people down south do things. So they're still kind of learning themselves a lot.
I mean, I feel like I can't lie. I learn every day. Like, I went to New York for the first time just last year. And then obviously I can stay out with the best of them. Give me, 3 days straight and I'm fine, including in your fine town. But at the same time, everyone does things differently. Like in the South, it's going to take a house party to keep people out past 12 o'clock. But up north, they don't even start the party until 12 o'clock. Same for fucking Europe. So like, I get how you're like, you kind of learn a little bit about it, and they don't have necessarily the most fluid, I guess they have the app, but it's not like, you can get gainfully information of what everybody's doing all the fucking time. Like I can just sit here and stalk people around the world, but that's kind of the freedom of what we've been given. My question here, and I feel like this is something you kind of did a perfect segue. What was your favorite dish you had in China, like region-wise? And then like I just recently had Chef Natasha, who does the ginger pig. She lived in China over there as well, and had like a mother that she like took an eggplant dish, and she does a bunch of different foods from her time living in China. What was your favorite region? Give us some of the highlights in the food section before we dive too deep into DaVinci. I gotta know.
Yeah, this is some good stuff, because good food's a really important thing to know in life, isn't it? The best food experience in southern China, area called Sichuan province. You ever heard of Szechuan food?
Mm-hmm.
Szechuan, the province called Sichuan, and it's known for being spicy, and not just spicy with the chilies, but they have a peppercorn. And the peppercorn numbs the mouth. So you can eat something so spicy, but you counter it because you numb your mouth out with a peppercorn. It's like taking a shot of morphine and then hitting yourself with a hammer. You're just not going to feel it. And the food dish is called a fire pot. So you have a big open kettle of soup on the table. Underneath that is the fire. So you're percolating this soup, and you take all the food you want, whether it's meat or vegetables, mushrooms or corn or tofu, and you throw it into the pot to get stewed up and cooked with all these chilies and with all the peppercorn. You pull it out cooked and hot. You stab it into a bowl of sauce, like whatever your sauces are going to be. And there's usually the restaurants have 25 different sauces. And then you kind of cool it down with some sauce. You throw it in the mouth, and it's endless. The eating is so good. And then here's the trick. These guys are really messed up. They really take you down. If you're at a truly authentic fire pot restaurant, they take the opium husk, from opium, real opium husks. They grind the husk up, and they throw the husk into the stew. And it's not that you get looped out and you're not whacked out on opium, but man, it can make you eat and eat and eat, and maybe you just never feel full, because we'll spend 3 to 4 hours eating, and you want to get the opium husk. If you can never get to the right restaurant, get the opium husk in your fire pot, get really baked, and eat for 4 hours. And make sure you drink the local beer. Local beer, fire pot, opium husk, good. It's going to be a good night.
Man, how you just painted that. So we have hot pots here, but they're like Americanized. How you just described that sounds like a totally badass experience that I definitely need to take part in.
Yeah, fire pots.
What was your beer of choice over there?
It's called Qingdao. Qingdao is a Chinese beer. They sell it here in the States, but it's a German brewery that was set up in the city of Qingdao a couple hundred years ago. And when China nationalized itself, they just nationalized the brewery. Probably had some German name. Now they call it Qingdao, but it's for hardcore beer drinkers. I think it's kind of a water beer. It's a Pilsner. It's just not a lot of hops to it. It's just a very,
casual drinker.
Wash down your food.
Yeah.
It's a wash down your food drink.
I feel like the German beers too, and the European beers, like if you go to the coasts or to the islands in certain countries, then it's like all Heineken, or everything is Stella, like those classic, like just wash down your food beers are just everywhere, and they're always European. It's like the American Budweiser.
Yeah, they get a Budweiser in China, but it tastes like river water. So, it was kind of insulting. I didn't really drink the Budweiser there much.
It probably tastes, if you ask a beer drinker here, I'm not necessarily like a connoisseur or something, but if they probably taste like river water to the average, as you sip your whiskey and I drink my wine, Budweiser probably tastes roughly to river water compared to some of the nice beers.
Yeah.
What are the hobbies that you do okay, never mind. We'll dive in that in the personal section. Before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the product. So I'm sitting here you mentioned I'm on a 5th generation, the IQ2 for DaVinci. what makes this one, besides, you mentioned it can go in the pocket and it is practical. Let's talk a little bit about what makes this one worth the bang for the buck, juxtaposed to your average PAX pen or
Okay.
your average Elite. Why would somebody want to go out and try the new DaVinci? I mean, obviously it strokes like a champion, but what is some of the highlights, or you can nerd out if you want to. Don't be shy.
We get geeky. Well, I'm going to
Yeah,
turn mine
yeah.
on. And
Okay.
I know that the thoughts are going to roll better as I ingest the fine ingredients I've loaded into my DaVinci vape here.
All right, so I turned mine on as well, and I actually have some wax here for our listeners at home. I can show this video, I think. Let's see, where's that wax? But yeah, let's just talk a little bit about the process of why you like it so much. Oops.
Sure, I think it's probably about 3 or 4 key points. I think that in the evolution of the DaVinci product that makes us unique from everyone else. Again, we were kind of the first to get to all the big breakthroughs. First in size, first in glass, and we're still number one in all the features. What stands out to me in this is the purity. It's the cleanliness. We're the only makers that went to great lengths to make sure that there is no contaminants in the entire air path of this machine. And what that means on a geek level is we've sealed the chamber inside. So not only is there a full glass chamber top to bottom, but we made sure that the air never comes in contact with the other hot elements of a vaporizer. For example, inside this is a PC board. The PC board is controlling all the algorithms and electronics and switches and componentry. Well, it gets hot. And it's soldered with solder, things you don't want in your air path. So we special built the machine and we seal it. And it's tested with a vacuum seal to make sure that no one's drawing air through, the PC board or the other metal parts that are in this machine. That the only thing that our vapor touches is glass, top to bottom. And the 2 materials that are used, you have 2 parts to really look at it. One is the bowl itself. We have a proprietary ceramic bowl with a glass glaze. And the reason we use a ceramic bowl and not, say, a metal bowl, look, metal's cheap, it heats up quick, but metal it's like tinfoil. If you took a blowtorch to tinfoil, it gets really hot really quick, and then it loses heat really quick. Well, the problem with that is that your herb around the metal gets scorched, while the herb in the middle doesn't cook. But a ceramic bowl, kind of like your ceramic cookware, it has a longer wavelength. And the heat wavelength penetrates into the center of the bowl, and we have an even burn. So we get a nice, consistent burn throughout the bowl. The other thing you'll notice with a DaVinci, different than all the other competitors, is we're accurate to 1 degree. If you put a thermometer in there or a heat thermometer gun in that, when we say 375 on the machine, that thing is parked. You're going to pull temperature through at 370. Now, why does that matter? Here's some real geek knowledge for you as I take a draw.
There you go. Also, what's the rules about getting high at work? We're off the clock. Are we off the clock over there?
We're still on the clock in Vegas, but we're product testing, so it's okay.
Yes, classic R&D. I love this.
Yeah, a little R&D time. Where were we talking about? The significance of the temperature. So here's a good learn for the listeners out there. Weed, it's filled with medicines, right? We call them cannabinoids, right? Your THC, Delta 9, all the different CBD, CBN, CBGs, all these cannabinoids, think of them as crystals. Well, crystals melt at a certain temperature. Like water goes from a solid state water and it boils at 212 degrees, right? Turns into steam. Well, everything has a boiling point, but they boil at different temperatures. So if you want to melt your THC crystal, well, guess what? That begins to melt around 200 degrees. So, it doesn't take much to get the THC to melt off. But if you want your cannabinoids, which is responsible for, let's say, what gives you the munchies is a cannabinoid. What makes you paranoid is a cannabinoid. What makes you sleepy is a cannabinoid. And if you want the different mixes of your cannabinoids, well, you have to melt those at a higher temperature. So if I want, let's say, my lower cannabinoids, that the ones that and so I'm going to feel good, I don't want to be paranoid, and I don't want too much munchies, and I don't want to fall asleep on the couch. Well, then you want to vape below 380 degrees, where you're getting some of the cannabinoids, but you're avoiding the cannabinoids that give you couch lock, the ones that leave you kind of going unfunctional. Now, the higher the temperature, the more cannabinoids get burned off, the more the medicine you're going to inhale. It's more familiar to smoke in a joint. I call it the full salad. If you want all the cannabinoids and all the terps, the whole deal, you put the thing to high temperature, you blow a big cloud, and it's kind of like taking a rip on a bong or off a joint. if you turn the temperature down, you avoid the carcinogen